DemocracyNow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
We turn now to an investigative report that finds many talking heads who've been fanning the flames of war in the news media have ties to Pentagon contractors. In a piece headlined, "Who's Paying the Pro-War Pundits?" reporter Li Fong says many of these commentators, quote, have skin in the game as paid directors and advisors to some of the largest military contractors in the world. Fong continues, ramping up America's military presence in Iraq and directly entering the war in Syria, along with greater military spending more broadly, is a debatable solution to a complex political and sectarian conflict. But those goals do unquestionably benefit one player in this saga, America's defense industry.
The ties of pundits to Pentagon contractors who stand to profit off war are not disclosed by the media where they proffer their views. One of the worst offenders in this regard is retired General Jack Keane, who, according to the piece, has appeared on Fox News at least 9 times over the last 2 months advocating military strikes against ISIS. Let's go to a clip from Sunday.
I do believe that the air campaign that's taking place in Iraq now will be expanded, but also we should expand immediately into Syria. He does not need congressional authorization for that. I'll leave it to him whether he thinks he should get that or not. But the fact of the matter, from a military perspective, we should be bombing Syria and Iraq simultaneously now.
That's retired General Jack Keane speaking on Fox News Sunday. He's introduced simply as a think tank leader and a former military official. Again, what's not disclosed is the range of his affiliations with Pentagon contractors. Keane's a special advisor to Academy, the contractor formerly known as Blackwater, and a board member of the military contractor General Dynamics. He's also a venture partner to SCP Partners, an investment firm that works with military contractors. Keane's think tank has also provided data on ISIS used by the New York Times, the BBC, and other major outlets. To find out more, we go to San Francisco to speak with the author of the piece, Li Fong. He is an investigative fellow with the Nation Institute, contributing writer at the magazine. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Lee. Talk about first General Keane and some of the other people that you have found. The issue is not so much who they work for, but that they are not identified as working for them when they're brought on television.
That's right, Amy. We look at a number of prominent pundits, contributors to cable news networks who have gone on television, appeared in the pages of different print outlets, submitted op-eds, and these individuals are only acknowledged or identified for their previous roles as officials at the State Department or former generals. Their current roles as advisors or board members to defense contractors have not been disclosed. Many of these individuals have called for an escalation in the region, arming different militant groups, calling for an increased air campaign for entering the conflict in Syria, many different military solutions to a very complex problem. But again, as you mentioned, these individuals have not their ties to military contractors that could benefit from these policies have not been disclosed. You talked a little bit about former General Jack Keane. Well, Jack Keane is the Fox News military analyst. He appears regularly on the Sunday programs and on primetime television. And remember, Fox News is the largest cable network. They bring in over 4 million, sometimes 4.5 million viewers in their primetime news coverage. And in many cases, Keane is the only military voice the analysts brought in to provide the military point of view. So many Americans are only getting his opinion without knowing that he works for many different defense contractors.
Well, I want to turn to comments made by someone else whom you cite in the piece, CN commentator Frances Townsend, who's also been calling for a tougher stance on ISIS. She previously worked in the Bush administration. Let's go to 2 clips of Townsend on CNN.
Bombing ISIS targets in Iraq is not going to be enough, because all you're going to do is push them back into the safe haven that Syria has become. And so we need a strategic plan to absolutely wipe out ISIS completely.
And I would say this can't just be an Iraqi operation, because if you do that, then you push ISIS into Syria where they enjoy safe haven. So you've got to have a broader strategy that includes the safe haven in Syria.
That was CNN commentator Frances Townsend. Lee, can you talk about who she is and why it's complicated that she's saying what she is?
Right. Townsend is a former Bush administration official. She's also a contributor to CNN, meaning she's a regular guest, appearing almost every other day in some weeks. But she's also a advisor to several defense consulting firms. She also works at a holding company, McAndrews and Forbes, which owns several defense contractors. One of the largest is AM General, which makes Humvees and other armored vehicles. So obviously, this is a company, AM General in particular, that has benefited from the war in Iraq. They've sold many vehicles to the government there. So when she goes on television and discusses military action in Iraq, and in many cases solely talks about the need to increase military involvement in that region, she's not disclosing, again, how some of her current ties to military contractors could pose a conflict of interest.
I want to turn to comments made by former head of CENTCOM, retired four-star General Anthony Zinni, who's been advocating for a large deployment of U.S. troops to the region. He recently spoke to Fox News Radio following the release of the video showing U.S. journalist Steven Sotloff being beheaded.
I think clearly this group has to be dealt with, and dealt with firmly. The atrocities they've committed, near genocide in some cases, the beheadings that are absolutely horrific. So I think we need to do what we are capable of to destroy, especially their conventional capability they've taken from the Iraqis and from others in Syria and Iraq. So I mean, I support the airstrikes. I think eventually we're going to have a security assistance program in place for the Kurds and the Iraqis to make sure that they can prevent the possibility of ISIS coming back.
That's General Anthony Zinni, again advocating for more war in the Middle East. Did you call the networks, Li Fang, to get their response to why they're not identifying these pundits or former generals as contractors for the contractors?
We reached out to several of these pundits. They did not respond. If any of the networks or the pundits do respond, we'll certainly update the piece. But, you know, the general you just played a clip from, Anthony Zinni, is a board member to BAE Systems, one of the largest defense contractors in the world, based in the United Kingdom. What's interesting is that earlier this month, Bank of America released a research note explaining that BAE Systems, which is a stock that slumped throughout much of this year, they're expected to rebound because of the conflict in Iraq and Syria and in the region. So this entire military strategy, the military escalation, certainly benefits companies like Zinni's firm, BAE Systems.
Do you see a correlation between the number of people advocating for war, or should I say the lack of anti-war response in the media, with the polls that show overwhelmingly Americans are for striking Islamic State?
Well, sure. Of course, military opinion is not monolithic, but on many of these networks, you hear from a limited set of opinions. And again, for Fox News, if you watch their primetime coverage, which is absolutely dominating, it receives more viewers than the two biggest competitors, MSNBC and CNN combined. You only hear from a very small set of opinions. Again, folks like retired General Jack Keane, they're the only military experts brought on for some of these primetime programs. And so, of course, if Americans are only hearing from a very select point of view, they aren't hearing from a diverse array of expert opinion, that's going to influence public opinion. And again, no one's saying that we shouldn't have some of these former generals speaking in the media. I think what many experts, media ethics professors and others have called for is simply more disclosure.
Li Fang, we want to thank you for being with us. A new piece in The Nation we'll link to, Who's Paying the Pro-War Pundits.